Hi everyone, here we are for one more podcast episode with Ronan. So, this is the Tantric Path of Love podcast, and today we have a chapter about.
Well, we reached chapter 5 already, and chapter 5 has this title. You'll notice with time the titles are big. Within erotic relationships based on mutual love and transfiguration, the path to divine ecstasy is frantic, deep, and total enjoyment. And I love this title. So, when you are on a correct, as we spoke already last time, when you are on a correctly set up relationship, that relationship, which is based on love and this correct vision of the other one, we even saw in the last chapter that you actually start to see the greatness of your beloved as you go through. So, based on this spiritual aspiration, love, transfiguration, then you'll get on this path to divine ecstasy, to transcendent state, as we also approached last time. And the path to reach there is total, deep, and frantic. Frantic means bubbly, super effervescent, and frantic enjoyment. This is very important because it's, I think, the biggest change from most other spiritual systems to the systems that embrace relationships and intimacy is that you actually can walk the path through joy, through happiness, through delight. And I'll just read, so this particular chapter does not have a motto, but I'll catch two or three sentences if you allow me, and then I'll ask you something. So it says like this after the title. Usually, when two people of the opposite sex who love and transfigure each other establish a complex mental, erotic, spiritual, and emotional connection, it is considered natural for them to help each other when they are confronted with the various tests and the difficult moments that life throws at them. Good. So this is the beginning, and I like very much how it is described. This empathy is not saying just let's feel how the other one is. No, it specifies emotional, erotic, spiritual. So it has all these dimensions. How do you perceive empathy when you are in a relationship? Can you connect to these levels? Is it something that is easy to attain? How do you experience this in your life?
Well, I think it took a practice, but yes, definitely. And I think it's so fundamental within a couple relationship so that we can really be attentive to be empathic with the one that we love. And it happens many times that imagine we are even with friends and I'm attentive to the conversation, to the dynamic, to how I'm feeling within that dynamic, but I expand from just being aware of myself to try as much as possible to be aware of my lover and to empathize with him. So sometimes I'm putting like my hand on his chest and he's out of nothing and he's like, what are you doing? And it comes from this that I'm feeling that something is going on inside and I'm just showing I feel you. I know now it's not the moment to talk because we are in front of other people and so on, but I'm aware of what's going on and we can talk later and I'm here with you. And I think this level only comes when we develop this empathy, when we are able to really profoundly connect with the other person as if kind of they are part of us. So like inside of us, you feel them as much as you feel yourself. And I think this is a training that we can develop within a couple relationship in time. And also in lovemaking or intimate moments, it can become also a beautiful part of the journey because you can actually feel each other's states and sensations. And for example, I don't know how it's for you as a man, but at least the feedback that I get is that a woman is so much more naturally orgasmic, multi-orgasmic, I think this is the word, and feeling all kind of states she cannot really describe in a down-to-earth manner. But then if the man that is with such a woman is developing this empathy, can so much easier dive into those states just through her, like by feeling her. How is it for you? Did you experience this before?
Yeah, what you are explaining now, it's one, I think, of the most beautiful experiences a man can have. I think that when a man is not having the privilege of being with a woman who actually has this aspiration and has this direction, he will always mostly live his intimacy, related to a very physical level, very grounded in the physical structure. But once a man starts to achieve a certain direction upwards, when he starts to shift his inner force to, instead of being just consumed, let's say, it starts to be nourishing to other levels. It happens exactly what you are describing. So in the beginning, it's just that you are there looking at the woman you love, and she is going somewhere that it's totally unknown for you. You have no idea what that is. You like to watch it. It gives you, even if you are not a spiritual oriented person, it gives your ego a boost. Oh, look how great I am. She's going somewhere. You don't even suspect she can do that without you. You're just having a privilege to witness it. But what happens is that if you truly manage, exactly as you said, to empathize, to connect, and this you cannot do on a superficial relationship. You cannot do this with somebody, unless you are very advanced and you are so open. But for most of us, you need a certain level of connection to be able to go this deep. So then what happens is that with this emotional, I would say for a man is one of the most important, that we connect and open emotionally to that woman, and that we then, of course, erotically and in all other levels, we are open to that woman. There is a moment of pure magic where something shifts, and you just get even a bit scared, like, what's happening? Because now you start to feel things inside of you that you never felt before, and it's absolutely indescribable. It would be even unfair for me to describe it in some way, because it would just give an idea to the minds of men listening, and they'll think, oh yeah, I understand. No, you don't understand. You have to have the experience if you want to understand, and you need to truly embrace it fully with all your being, and full of courage, because it is a little bit daunting
Hmm.
when that happens. That suddenly it just moves. And I remember, for me, the first time I had that experience was scary and beautiful, because I was feeling like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, this is too much, or something like this. And she was so connected to me that she just stopped for a moment, looked me in the eyes, and she said, it's okay, you don't need to stop, you can do this, or something like this, some comforting words. And then she just continued, and I just imploded, let's say, into a new dimension of awareness. And that state really stayed with me for a few days. It was like something very, very special. And then, of course, with time and with practice, man can achieve this, specifically even by some practices of yoga, some other energetic disciplines that teach you how to move. Let's say it's a hacking, biohacking that you do to your system. Instead of it functioning the way that most people function, it starts to function another way. You become a kind of top athlete, high competition athlete who develops skills that most people don't have. The same on this path of awakening this empathy, a man would develop some skills that only the top athletes in Tantra, Taoism, Sufism have. And yeah, so that's how I think most men experience it. I think for at least my colleagues, many times the first experience is a kind of moment of magic, a moment of grace.
Hmm.
It just comes through that woman that loves them, and they just have it. And then after they know it exists, now it's time to put on the work. Now go and do your yoga practice, do your tai chi or your qigong, I don't know what you choose to do, so that you can actually master it by yourself and you can actually do it. This is how I felt. Do you want to say
Yeah,
something?
I
Because
wanted to. Yeah, I wanted to add just two more things, because I really feel empathy is such a quality of the heart that it's so important for us as human beings to develop, and it actually can bring these extraordinary experiences to the relationship in two different ways. So one of them is when challenges come. One is facing challenges. The other, instead of judging the challenge, can say, okay, regardless of what I think about the challenge, I can empathize with you. And it's important for me how you're feeling about it. Not so much what is the thing that is triggering that in you, but how are you feeling? And through connecting, we can, also see how to help that person and how to support that person in overcoming that situation. Because maybe something that is very challenging for the person that we are with is not challenging at all for us, right? For us, it's like, oh my God, why is he bothering with that? Or why is it so important? And then for that person, it's a big deal. It's a big thing. And the person can get completely emotionally not stable, let's put it like this, because of that situation. And so I think empathy is super important because it helps us to also connect with how the person is seeing the problem so that we can also help to overcome that situation from their perspective, which
Yeah,
we will never be able to do from where we are sitting if we just place ourselves in our own shoes. Do you agree with this? So,
yeah, and I even think that if you allow me, I'll read because there's a part on this chapter that addresses exactly that point. It says
mm-hmm,
like this: within a couple based on mutual love and transfiguration, we need to feel empathy towards the other one, especially during life's painful and dramatic moments.
mm-hmm.
But, and this is the other side of the coin, but, however, it is essential also that we need to feel empathy also in the moments of happiness, joy, and fulfillment, so that the relationship doesn't tend to become just, a compensation
Exactly.
of each other's bad states. So,
That let me just say this because this was the second point I wanted to say, because it's also very easy for us to relate when, for example, one of the person inside of the couple relationship achieves something, maybe at work. We just gave an amazing class, or we did an amazing project, or whatever is the what we are doing. In my case, I'm teaching, so this is what I relate to. But regardless of what it is, we accomplished something, and then we get home like super bubbly and super excited and extraordinary state. And maybe the other one was just having a bit of a flat day, or not feeling so much like that. But then through empathizing with us, they can also enter into that bubbly state and feeling super enthusiastic for us. And it kind of, our achievement belongs to both, like we are both enjoying that in some way.
this chapter actually it's mentioning exactly that. It's mentioned there that when you have successes, when you reach something, some couples would have the opposite tendency, like even a kind of envy of the other one's joy, of the other one's happiness. And this is again, it comes back to how you set up the relationship. In a well set up relationship, the happiness should always outdo the sadness. So if one of us is sad, the one that is happy should be the one actively in how to say influencing beneficial in a beneficial way the one who is sad, instead of how many people pervert it. They say, oh yeah, you're happy but I'm very sad now, so come down to my sadness level and let's both stay here sad because you need to empathize with me. No, that's not a good direction. You can actually let go of your sadness by this communion with your beloved in all the levels. And of course, this is not an excuse because the chapters are very perfect. It also mentions that if you cannot be joyful by yourself, you'll not be joyful with your beloved. So it's our individual task to resonate with joy, to be joyful. Of course, we have to work on that on our own, but still, when you are in a relationship, you will have the open door to bring that joy continuously to each other and to uh, grow each other in a state of joy. And you wanted to say something? No?
No, no,
And
no.
so,
Continue, continue.
and so also in this chapter, it is said then a little bit further that the greatest joy, and we'll say this many times in this book, the greatest joy of the tantric man is to make his beloved as happy as possible. And the greatest joy of the tantric woman is to make her beloved as happy as possible. The state of happiness and delight that happens when we are in empathy with others, experiencing the joy and happiness that they feel, is an extraordinary state that helps us to get out of ourselves and we start to exist in the other one's universe. And this is, I think, again, a beautiful practical indication of how to orient it. So we consciously decide as a couple we want to have a positive oriented relationship, we want to be on the good side, of course. And it says also in this chapter, life will throw a lot of things at you. It says that you with your beloved should be very anchored in this joy because pain is already enough outside on life. So inside the relationship, it should be this bubble of joy, but we orient it in such a way that we both agree that when one of us is down and the other one is up, it's the one who is down who will mobilize himself and in an active way try to be happy with that one. And the other one will help as much as they can, but never by dosing down the happiness so that you don't feel weird that I'm so happy. No, we try to lift each other's up as an exercise. We'll fail sometimes. If we take it correctly, it's fun. It's like we try, and then we notice that we are still sad, right? Yeah, we're sad. Okay, let's just hug for a moment. And we could not in this moment bring the joy. But even just the acceptance will also change a little bit the energy there, you know? So it should be playful. It should not be, no, you have to be joyful. It doesn't work like that. You try, both of you, in the best possible way. And you even play if you don't succeed. You say, next time we're going to get this one. It's not so easy, but next one is going to be the one. Now we are a little bit sad. Okay, we didn't succeed today. But you'll see that I think it doesn't take long for you to catch how to do it. And then you succeed more and more. And the relationship becomes the beaming, flowering light that gives joy to the rest of your life, as the chapter says. It will give joy to all the other stress and problems that life will throw at you, and the catastrophes, sometimes dramas. That all will be changed by how much you have a relationship based on joy.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. It's really a training process that I think we need to bear in mind, that it's not always easy, but it's definitely worth it.
Read a little bit here. It says, as we know, we all have a huge appetite for enjoyment, and it is natural to allow ourselves to be intoxicated with happiness as often as possible. This need for enjoyment to feel happy is crucial because existence is hard. It's filled with obstacles, tensions, and suffering. So we need this joy. And where better to get joy than from the person you love, than from the relationship you're building, than from the amazing path you're walking with another human being, that it brings you all these fireworks and all these magical things. So yeah, I really liked this chapter, and I have a, let's say, a feedback from men, not from me personally, but from men that I know, to women in general. Do you think men tend to be more positive than women, or is this a myth?
I don't think women are more pessimistic in general. I think that we feel emotions in a very nuanced way. So usually for us, it's not just good or bad, and there are like these two options. Usually when you're communicating with a man, it doesn't mean that he doesn't have this capacity to also feel many different types of emotions. And I mean, it's not like this, but they have a predominant tendency, let's put it like this, to say, I'm either bad or good. It's kind of these two options, right?
Fine.
Or fine, yeah. While women, I think we are so much more in contact predominantly, again, with all these different colors and nuances and flavors, and all this spectrum between very bad to excellent and orgasmically very good, which can make it more complex. Perhaps we don't just say good or bad, we are like having different nuances for everything that is below the fine. But I don't think we are predominantly pessimistic, because also when we are going up, so to speak, and we are in a good mood, we are also much more expressive of how that very good feels and is and manifests. So again, we are speaking generally, yeah. But I think women have this capacity to amplify everything. So if they are bad, they are very bad usually. They will feel it super intense. And if they are good, they are very good. So this will make it that it feels like it has a much more impact.
I think it's exactly that, and I think also maybe to, as a point to close this topic in this chapter, many times we see, as we said also in the last chapter, we see the situation according to our own pattern, to our own tendency, and unfortunately, exactly as the chapter says, life is hard. There's a lot of things that we have to deal with, and people might get into this, men and women, to this negative mindset. They might become pessimistic, in some cases even masochistic, and you have a tendency to, oh, okay, spiritual evolution is hard. That's what it says in all the great texts of spirituality. It's something that is, crushing your ego. You have to somehow become very meek, very humble. So you might have or fall into a tendency of masochism in a relationship, because you might have lower emotions, but then you have all these indications. You have to be joyful, you have to be this, you have to be that, and then you kind of suppress those emotions to try to again live to an ideal that is not yet there. You try to be in the pedestal. Now you put yourself in the pedestal, which is a supreme arrogance, no? So you qualify yourself as too good to have human emotions, yeah, in the relationship. And then you have a relationship that is basically uh, creating a void between them, because you pretend to be something that is not yet. You can fake it until you make it, but many people have had problems with this. So you don't ever acknowledge what is there. You live in a place that is not real yet, and then you never actually get to that place. And that's why the measurements, as we spoke last time, are so important. Because if after 3 months, 9 months, 1 year, 2 years, it's not doing that, the relationship is not reaching to the levels that we are learning about, something needs to change. You need to change your strategy, because else it becomes masochism. You are actually in pain, you're actually suffering, you are actually not happy, and you're doing what nowadays there's this expression, the spiritual bypass. You're just using spiritual terms to bypass your real emotions. That's not the point in Tantra. The point is to alchemize, to change, to transmute an emotion, not to suppress it and put it in the subconscious and create a monster there. So I think this point is very important for us also to leave here as a side note,
Mm-hmm.
because when we hear a chapter saying you have to be happy, joyful, it even says you need to celebrate when the other one wrote his first book, when the other one shared their spiritual music CD. You have to celebrate when it's your anniversary, or when it was the first time you made Maituna, which is a love-making ritual in Tantra. All these things, it tells us to celebrate, to be joyful. Yeah, be really joyful by really transmuting and sublimating and elevating the lower parts that are there. So this joyful is a state of vibration, is a resonance you attune to. You get into that state. And if something is hindering you from getting there, usually it would not be the best approach to deny that part. It is much better to actually look into it and say, okay, we need to put light there, bring that out, and really come into true joy, not a superficial joy. I
And
don't know if you agree with
connecting.
this.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And it's very interesting the sequence that you mentioned is after asking me that question, because I think that within a couple relationship, the woman, because she's again predominantly or generally speaking, in contact with this emotional part much more and feels it much more intensely. I think within a couple, she's usually accusing, so to speak, she's manifesting how the couple is at some extent. So of course she has her issues, but many times it's also a reflection of what is going on. And it's interesting when, for example, we see within a couple relationship a woman starting to get very angry or having a burst of some kind of unprocessed emotion or something which is not good. And then it's not about what she's saying exactly that it's the problem, but it's a sign for the man that something is going on and something that he's also having a responsibility,
Yeah, precisely.
right? So, and then he can, with his lucidity and being calm and centered, he can try to dive into that storm very consciously and figure it out what exactly is the issue, which many times is not what she's saying, but she's signaling something. And this is what I meant. Like, I don't think women are more pessimistic. I think women are more expressive and feel it more intensely. They are an embodiment of energy, as we know, right? This cosmic energy, this Shakti power. And so I think they will amplify and put it on the spotlight what is not working within the couple relationship. Much, let's say, in a much natural, easier way, perhaps, than men would do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's it's one of the big things for a man, I believe, is this shift from just being there somehow and being responsible for what's happening there. So, of course, in the end, again, another spiritual bypass that is very common. In the end, we are all responsible for ourselves. We are responsible to be happy. We are responsible to all this. Yes, indeed, you are. But if you are in a relationship and you are in empathy with somebody and you are beneficially influencing each other with your energy, with your emotions, with your feelings, you are interested that every part of that system is on the right direction. And men tend very much to be inert, to be passive, let's say, to, the relationship is almost running in autopilot if the woman doesn't signal anything. You'll just let it stay. It's not disturbing, we don't touch it. This is for, of course, more unconscious men. They just let the relationship slide. While a dynamic relationship, and the dynamism is a responsibility of the woman, she's the one that cares, that pays attention, that comes with all these amazing feedbacks. And a conscious man will just immediately respond to that. And it becomes a dance that is joyful. Again, it produces this, what we mentioned in this chapter. Instead of being a stress, that she's feeling guilty that now I have something that I have to say. How do I say it? How do I manifest it? And him, when she starts to speak, going, oh my God, not again. Everything was good. Why is she again complaining about not? Instead of this, to have a woman that goes, oh, I think I caught something. Something is not right here. And she goes, to the lover and says, Amor, I think that this is not okay. We change. And he immediately goes, you caught something. Okay, what's happening? You're not happy, but I thought you were happy with this. No, I'm not. I thought I was, but I'm not. Oh my God. And then all the thing now, rearranges and you are enthusiastic together finding this out because you don't take it separate. This is, I think, the click that most people don't do. You are not separate. It's not. She's not a burden. She's not complaining to you because it's you. Both of you are that in that moment, and both of you are engaged in the solution or the making it worse of that situation. So yeah, I think this shift from just a passive observer of what's happening and trying to make her be stable instead of actively being there and actively taking it fully changes everything. Mostly, as you said, and I agree, when the woman comes with something, even anger, whatever it is, it's mostly a cry for the man to be fully present in that moment. He's somehow not paying attention. Somehow he's not dedicating enough to what we are building. And she's, screaming because he's very far away, even if he's standing there. Emotionally, internally, he's far away. She's calling him out. If he comes, if he lets go of the telephone, if he lets go of the iPad, whatever he's doing, if turns to her and gives his full attention and he thinks with her, how do we solve this? Half of the anger is gone, half of the problem is gone, and now we just focus on the real issue, which we do have to solve, but it's usually much smaller than the dimension that was created there. This is at least how I experienced it.
Yeah, it makes total sense for me. I experienced the same. So it is actually very fulfilling for a woman to also feel that when she's having those states, the man is not running away from it, but actually having the opposite movement of being present and just staying there. Even if, I mean, he's not supporting the outburst. Yeah, so we are not here, how to say, incentivizing women to just break the room and, and have these explosive, uncontrolled emotions all over the place. But definitely, when we express something that is not good, that we feel inside, that makes us not feel balanced or something like this, and the man has this capacity to not get scared or to not reject or to not have that you were also saying of, oh no, there she is again creating one more problem when there was apparently no problem. you know so when the man has this capacity to not fall into that but actually just be present, I totally agree that solves the majority of the issue, because that's what you need to have a couple relationship that will thrive, as we are presenting, also commenting in this book, right? It needs to
Yeah,
be a relationship where both show up, we are both present with the same attitude to want to make it work, and take these crises as opportunities of growing together.
Yeah, and even circling back to the chapter of today, I like our sidelines, but we get to the same place. Circling back to the chapter, one of the things that is recommended to celebrate, because a part of the chapter is just telling you celebrate this, celebrate that, you need to be joyful together on this, on that. One of the things is successfully past problems, crises, or stresses that we had together. So moments when we overcame a test, this is recommended to celebrate it. And by this, so of course we know life is ups and downs, there will be good and bad moments, but by doing this, so by making sure we have these moments of celebration, of recognition, of empathy, and letting the one above win the struggle for the energy, by doing this again and again and again, we do get tendentially, so there will be ups and downs, but it moves from this. So life could be like this for the ones only on audio. I'm just moving my finger up and down in a horizontal line, but it moves from that into up and down that is actually ascending. So you have still fluctuations, but it's going in the right direction. You have more and more joy. You can laugh even about the difficulties that come up because you are already so anchored in this energy of joy, genuine joy, not joy with a lot of repressions of bad things, genuine joy that comes from this genuine alchemy, genuine change of lower emotions. And yeah, I think this is the main message of the chapter of today, this fifth chapter, that you can do this path towards the highest of highest, the enlightenment, in a very, very joyful way, in a very beautiful way.
Thank you so much, Ronan. So this was the end of our fifth episode, and see you next time.
See you next time.